No good deed goes unpunished. That's what Red's crazy Uncle Remus used to say. It's a lesson Red never really thought about until she was staring down the barrels of 3 rifles, aimed by the folks she'd intended to save. Maybe it was inevitable that her extras would get exposed, that the Baileys would find out she wasn't quite human, not anymore. Now, in the middle of the Dead Boone Forest, Red and the Baileys have a choice to make. Are they still able to trust one another, or will the wasteland claim yet another set of victims? Dangers wait around every corner, choices have consequences, and the Ballad of Trader Red continues.
And that's when I met y'all. See, I'm just trying to get home. I never intended to make no detour, and I certainly meant no harm, despite how these extras may look. Just doing a good turn, if y'all believe me.
Red's whole story could have filled up one of those big old encyclopedias they used to have down at the county library. But with them all being in the middle of one heck of a dangerous forest, she'd spun as quick a tale as she could, while keeping to her promise, and hoped it was enough for the Baileys to see her not as the monster she appeared, but the young woman from the hill country that she still was, at least mostly.
And I thought I had heard everything.
Oh, I don't rightly know what to think.
How are we supposed to believe any of that?
There were no good answers, at least none that Red could think of.
Care to explain this particular detail too?
The older woman was holding Red's pack, now exposing its contents for all to see.
Well, it's a deathclaw egg.
The thing you mentioned before, the monster, right?
Shiny weren't no monster. Darlings, not everything out here is gonna try to kill ya. That's the last thing I got from my good old Shiny. I told y'all that he saved my life. And before he passed on, he left that for me. For safekeeping, I guess. Please, don't hurt it.
Ma, you ain't gonna break it, are ya?
The young girl was tugging on her mother's shirt, with her brother close behind, looking up at her with their biggest puppy dog eyes. Buck, the older boy, was standing next to them.
Riley, Quinn, this ain't your place. Us adults are... Well, we're having a real important conversation here.
But she saved us, Ma. Huh? Grandpappy? I don't think Red there looks all that scary. Not like that glowing thing that tried to eat us or those raiders.
Didn't think things could get any stranger, or worse for that matter.
I know how y'all feel. Nothing I've done has gone quite right. And who knows what's normal anymore. Darlings, like I said, a deal is a deal. I'll get you to where y'all need to go. If you'll let me. And then we can go our separate ways. But first, can I please have the egg back?
The adults all looked at each other, and Darlene looked back at Red. The look in her eyes mirrored her own every time she looked at her own children.
You're right when you say we don't know what's normal, but a maternal instinct kicks like a mule.
Now, Darlene, you sure that's a good idea?
Oh, hush now, Clay. Here you go, Red.
Darlene handed the pack to Red. Putting her hand on the egg, the young woman let out a sigh of relief as it looked none the worse for wear. The men still looked at her through skeptical eyes. Then Red heard something in the distance.
Oh, crud.
What now? Is this another trick?
Be quiet, JD. Hear something too.
Red slung her pack and turned back towards the north. She could hear something moving, something far in the distance, something big, and it sounded like it was coming this way.
All right now, darlings. Now, I know this ain't the best circumstances, and I can't say much else to get y'all to trust me again. But we need to move. We're sitting chickens right here, and those dang wendigos aren't the only thing hungry in this here forest. It's getting late, and we need to be somewhere else.
Amos and Clayton looked at each other, then nodded. Only J.D. remained skeptical, but when the rest of the adults started gathering the children and pulling the Brahmin along, the young man fell in behind. Red stayed in front, keeping her eyes and ears open. She could feel the eyes of the family on her back, and Red didn't need to be part cryptid to smell the fear coming off of them neither. They'd just have to realize that there were things out here a lot scarier than she was, but what came next made that just a little harder. Passing around the curve, the Baileys got to see the full breadth of Red's handiwork.
Ugh, I think I'm gonna be sick.
Darlene, mind the kids. It's really...
Can smell it from here, Clay. All right, kids. I need y'all to close your eyes real tight like and hold my hand.
But Ma,
It's gross, right? Real gross. I want to see.
Not on your life, you two. Unless you want to talk to your grandpappy again about minding your ma here. Now, Buck, help me with the twins until we get clear. Got it?
Sure thing, Ma. Quinn, Riley, you heard Ma. Now close your eyes. First one who opens them loses.
what do we lose? Buck?
Yeah. What do we lose?
Something you'll miss. So just don't, okay?
Neither of the twins was happy, but they did finally close their eyes. As they walked, Darlene wished she could have kept her eyes shut tight, because the scene they passed was nothing short of horrific. The creatures, Red had called them wendigos, were strewn about in various pieces along the road. Their blood had been all green and glowy, with spray covering not only the cars, but even up along the hillside as well. That their traveling companion could kill not just one, but take on a whole pack of those things. Well, it was more than a little terrifying.
Ew, what is that smell?
Yuck. I think I'm gonna be sick.
Just hurry along and we'll be past it all here, lickety-split.
Truth be told, Darlene felt the bile rising in her own throat. Between the rancid smell, the bodies, and the blood, it was enough to turn her stomach. Buck looked more than a little green himself, but he did his best to guide the twins past the carnage. Beyond the curve, the road led the family deeper into the forest. Red kept glancing over her shoulder, both to reassure herself that the Baileys weren't about to skedaddle or worse, and to keep an ear on what was following them.
It sure don't sound friendly. Not at all.
Amos, Clayton, and J.D. were talking amongst themselves as they walked. Red could hear every word, and they were scared. Scared of the forest, scared for their family, and scared of her.
Like Uncle Remus always said, no good deed goes unpunished, or some such.
There were still a few hours of daylight left, but there was no way they'd clear the forest before nightfall, and whatever was following them was getting closer. Red still couldn't make out what it might be, but if the Wendigos were any indication, the last thing she wanted was to run into something big, mean, and hungry on the open road.
Hey, Red?
Red kept walking.
Red, come on. Where are we going?
Finally, Red looked over her shoulder. The young man's eyes kept glancing at her extras.
Oneida, a deal's a deal, remember?
I mean,
Yeah, I know. Sorry, darling. Just thought, hell, y'all feel the way y'all feel, I guess.
damn it, I don't know what to think is all. But you're all we got.
All right, darling. I'll take whatever I can get. Right now, we need to find some place to hole up. Because if this is what this damn forest is like during the day, I can't even imagine what it'll be like at night. We gotta find shelter, and we need to do it fast.
So caught up in worrying that Red might just turn around and eat them, J.D. hadn't even considered the time, or the threat of what else might be out there.
Oh no. Oh heck. Yeah, that's bad. Real bad. Wait, are you spooked by something?
JD. Now, darling, I don't need y'all in a tizzy. But yeah, I heard something. Hell, I'm still hearing it. Don't know what it is, but anything that sounds like that can't be good.
JD saw the concern in Red's eyes, and suddenly he didn't care about her horns or whatever other extras she might have. Instead, he looked over his own shoulder, then out into the forest around them.
Then, what do? What can I do?
Looking back at the family, then to JD, Red got serious. Deadly serious.
Whatever happens, and I do mean whatever, darling, you protect them. Kin is kin, blood is blood. Don't you ever forget it. But, in specific, keep everyone moving, watch the trees, and you shoot anything that ain't us.
JD took a deep breath, then nodded. He walked back to his pa and grandpap. They took the news as expected. Clayton fell back to guard the Brahmin, with Amos in front, and JD covered Red's back.
Wish I felt half as confident as I sounded. Damn, Shiny. What I wouldn't give for a death claw right now.
Greetings, people of Earth. My name is Shmo Brannigan. I have hacked into this RSS feed with a promotional feature for the Wizard Scroll podcast, transcribing in 3, 2, 1.
Hold on, let me unfurl this wizard scroll real quick.
I'm free! I'm finally free!
Bob, is that you?
Ugh, I ain't your mom anymore, kid. I'm a skeleton now. Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Jerry. Smell you later, loser. I hate my life!
Holy crap, wrong half. We've talked about this 17 times already. Your constant outbursts are not freaking sweet at all, and they need to stop.
Hello? Welcome to the Sorcerer's Slice. Can I get a name for the order?
Kid, you gotta make the order. They don't let me come here anymore.
What?
I was banned from coming here 74 years ago for cutting bad checks. Please, they'll recognize my voice. You have to order.
All right, fine.
The Wizard Scroll is available on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and wherever else fine podcasts are found. This concludes today's promotional feature.
What had once been quite the sight for those pre-war tourists had the makings of the worst nightmare Red could imagine. So far, the road was just a twisting strip of asphalt with the occasional wreck or skeleton to mark their passage. They had stopped briefly at a scenic overlook. Red had hoped they'd be able to get a better sense of where they were or spot someplace safe to stay for the night, but all they could see was the vast expanse of hills and trees. The Dead Boone Forest was living up to its name.
We're running out of time. I can feel it.
The shadows had only grown longer, and besides whatever was following them, Red could hear and smell a host of other creatures scurrying through the brush and trees just out of sight. So far, nothing had jumped out of the bushes, but Red figured that wouldn't last any longer than it took for the sun to finally disappear behind the hills.
Damn it all. I didn't come all this way. Survive hell on earth just to die in this damn forest.
The Baileys weren't faring much better. Their feet were tired and nerves frayed. Even the twins had lost interest in playing their silly games, instead gripping the hands of their mother and older brother. Amos and Clayton kept eyeing the setting sun, their own fears steadily approaching.
Oh, Red! I found something!
Against her better judgment, Red had sent JD up the road ahead of them at the behest of Grandpa Amos. He figured JD was fast enough and somewhat smart enough to not get in too much trouble and give them a chance to find some shelter. The young man jogged back down the road and stopped in front of the group, hands on his knees trying to catch his breath.
Well, go on, spill it, JD.
A camp. A big one. Lots of cabins. A lake even. It's not far. Just down the road.
A camp? Well, that sounds promising.
A sight better than nothing, darling. I guess we ought to go see for ourselves.
None too soon, as the sun was nearly behind the hills, the group made their way down the road. JD was proved correct, as they turned a corner and found themselves in front of an old wooden sign.
Camp Turtle. Welcome to the Daniel Boone Pioneer Scout Jamboree, 2077.
Beyond the sign, the family could see nearly 24 cabins, arranged in neat rows, all built around a central lodge.
Well, I'll be damned. I never made it past Tadpole.
Not for lack of trying, Clay. Those scouts, they knew how to build. Might be just what we've been looking for.
Yes, I'll take your word for it, darling. Ain't never heard of no scouts, other than playing cowfolks and tribesmen back at home.
It's almost dark. Let's get to the lodge.
Hold your horses there, darling. JD, exactly how close did y'all get to them there cabins?
Not too much further than here. Why?
Y'all stay right here. There's something moving down there, and it ain't human. At least anymore.
Ferals?
Can smell 'em from here. Ain't no Wendigos, though, thank the heavens. I'll head down and clear 'em out.
I'm going too.
Don't know if that's the best idea, JD.
Grandpap, I found the place. And 2 of us can do this faster than just one, right?
JD, maybe we should all go.
All right, darlings, enough yapping. Time's a-wasting, and those ferals ain't gonna clear themselves. All right, JD, it's you and me, and we're gonna play a little game. Make all of this go a bit faster.
What kind of game?
Ever heard of Rabbit Run?
The way Red smiled made JD just a bit nervous, especially when those teeth of hers caught the dying light of the setting sun. The predatory look in her eyes sent a chill down his spine.
Oh, don't you worry, darling. It's gonna be fun. I promise.
Amos and Clayton looked at JD and just shrugged their shoulders. Only thing they could do now was give Red the benefit of the doubt. Everything else, well, they would have to figure that out later. Red took old Percy and led JD down into the campground. She explained her plan on the way, and when she had finished, the young man thought that Red might just be crazy after all. Rabbit Run. That's what Red had called it, and he found more empathy for rabbits the further on it went. Red had climbed up on the roof of one of the cabins, while JD had run around the camp, hooting and hollering, getting the attention of every feral in the place. The plan sounded crazy, and as JD ran, it just got crazier and crazier. There had been more than he'd expected, and soon he had over a dozen of the rotten creatures on his tail, moaning and screeching as they chased after him. After his third circuit of the camp, JD turned and ran straight back to where Red lay in wait. He pushed himself even faster, feeling the hair on the back of his neck stand up as it felt like the creatures were right behind him. When JD heard old Percy bark, he threw himself to the side, sliding behind one of the cabins, giving Red a clear shot at the pack of ferals on his heels. Red squeezed the trigger methodically, dropping the first of the creatures, then half a dozen more before they could react. Reloading, she kept firing, soon joined by JD, who took advantage of the distraction, rising to his knees and using his pipe rifle to finally polish off the last of the creatures. When Red had climbed down from her perch, both she and JD had examined the ferals. From the looks of them, they had been scouts, dressed in ragged khaki uniforms.
Best to have put them out of their misery, I guess.
The bodies showed all the signs of radioactive mutation, the skin barely hanging off the bones, while inside the brains had been reduced to who knows what, leaving nothing but the instinct to attack whatever happened to get their attention. Red hadn't a clue why some folks turned feral while others just became regular old ghouls. Either way, it weren't a fate she'd wish on anyone.
Don't hear him anymore. Guess we got 'em all?
Woo! You got a pair of lungs on you, darling. Enough to wake the dead. Yeah, I figured we got 'em all, but best to be all careful like, too. I'll check the main lodge up yonder. Y'all go get your kin and get down here. It's just about dark and I'd rather we have a roof over our heads, ferals or not.
Red had reloaded old Percy and stalked over to the main lodge. Several times the size of the cabins, it loomed over the camp and nearby lake. The front doors were already open and Red walked inside, sniffing the air and listening for any sounds of movement. Moving from room to room, all she did find was the debris of the past. Rotted scouting manuals, barely legible pamphlets, and overturned tables and chairs. Red also found bodies. A few ferals, but even more skeletons. Whatever had happened at the camp after the bombs dropped, it hadn't turned everyone, leaving the rest to eventually fend off their former scoutmates.
Poor kids. Probably had no idea what was happening to them.
Behind a final set of doors, which had been barricaded from the inside, Red found the scoutmaster of Camp Turtle.
Poor devil.
Their skeleton was sitting behind a large wooden desk. In one hand was a 10mm pistol. The other held a pencil, and a stack of papers sat on the desk itself. Red walked over and started leafing through it. The old scoutmaster had told their story, pages worth of it, each one of them carefully illustrated with hand-drawn pictures. Red turned to the last page and read the final lines written there.
I think this is it. No more food and just ran out of water. Those things are still at the door. I still don't know what happened to my campers. The jamboree was going to be the best yet, and now it's a nightmare I can't wake up from. I've written down everything I could think of, everything that happened. If anyone finds this, please return it to Pioneer Scouts headquarters in Knoxville. They should know what had happened here. You know, my art has gotten pretty good, if I say so myself. Pity if no one sees it. Signed, Scoutmaster Shia.
Red could only imagine what it must have been like, the Scoutmaster being swarmed by ghouls and stuck in this office for God knows how long, before finally passing on. Taking the stack of papers, Red stuffed them in her pack, next to Shiny's egg. If she ever did make it out of here, she'd make a stop in Knoxville and see if those scouts were still around. Least she could do for someone who, even in death, was giving her a bit of shelter from the dangers outside.
Red, everything all right?
It's clear, darlings. Come on inside.
Red started walking from the room, only to step on a piece of paper on the floor. Out of curiosity, she picked it up. It was another drawing, the same as what she had seen in the Scoutmaster's writings. However, this one must have been drawn much earlier, with more of a child's hand. It showed what Red could only assume was the Scoutmaster, wearing a funny-looking hat and a long jacket, holding hands with someone else, a young teenager in a jumpsuit. They both looked happy, without a care in the world. Red took the drawing and went back to the desk, placing it carefully in front of the old Scoutmaster. She tipped her horn to the deceased and said a silent little prayer. To whom, well, Red didn't rightly know, but it just felt like the right thing to do. Making sure to close the doors behind her, Red walked downstairs to greet the Baileys. While they now had shelter for the night, there was no guarantee that whatever had been tracking them would be dissuaded from paying them a visit in the dark. But Red had a plan.
Alrighty, folks. Find a space for that there Brahmin, and then we get to work.
What's the plan, Red?
Well, for starters, we gotta block the doors and the windows, darlings. I think we might be in for a bumpy night.
While Buck corralled the twins, who had spotted a cartload of toys off in one of the corners, the adults did what they could, dragging furniture in front of the doors and windows. Outside, darkness descended over the camp, and from the surrounding woods, the gleam of predatory eyes set their sights on the buildings below.
Ever get so lost in your favorite game that the day slips by unnoticed? Do you need audio dramas and gaming pods to get you through the day till you can jump back in game? You're not alone. I'm inviting you to join me as we dive into a world of immersive lore and gameplay on my shows The Fallout Feed, Starfield Lorecast, and Dames Who Game, plus all the shows we do on the ASA Podcasting Network. On the Fallout Feed, we celebrate the world of Fallout and occasionally other RPGs, where rad roaches are far from the only bugs you'll encounter, and there's always a new way to tackle a quest. For Starfield fans, join me on the Lorecast. And on Dames Who Game, join me and my girls as we mix games, nerdy media, makeup, and our latest obsessions. With these and other shows at ASA Podcasting, we believe the best way to experience a game is to dive deep. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, you name it. ASA Podcasting, your next adventure starts here.
Despite the years of neglect, the old scout lodge proved to be a boon to the Bailey family. After locking and blocking all the windows and doors, the adults had gone room to room, gathering up whatever supplies they could lay their hands on, which was considerable. Not only did they find an ample supply of shelf-stable foods, including cram, Instamash, and more, there were also several crates of purified water. While the lodge kitchen was no longer functional, Darlene was able to rig up a cooking pot in the old fireplace and started working on a nice Brahmin stew for dinner. Despite the danger outside, both Amos and Clayton decided it would be better for the family to be well fed if they found themselves in trouble again. It wasn't something Red could argue, since her own belly was rumbling something fierce, but she'd also seen the look in those folks' eyes. Despite everything, they'd been afraid. Were probably still afraid. They'd seen monsters, be it raiders, ferals, or those damn wendigos. And here she was, little old Red, a monster in her own right.
Folks are folks, and I ain't their kin. Suppose I count myself lucky they didn't plug me back on the road.
Red was standing next to one of the upper windows, keeping her eyes on the cabins below. There was something out there. She was sure of it.
Too much rustling. And it smells all funny. Wish I could get a look at it. Better to know just what in tarnation I'm dealing with.
Red?
Taking her eyes off the window, Red turned to find J.D. at the top of the stairs. He was holding 2 plates of food. The smell was enough to make Red's mouth water and her belly voice another rumble.
Smells mighty fine. Thanks for bringing it up. I guess I'll just eat it here.
Nah, Red. Ma sent me up here to get you. Come on down.
Y'all sure, darling? I don't want to intrude or nothing.
Ma insisted. So come on. Don't let the stew get cold.
J.D. smiled, which was enough to get Red to abandon her post and follow the young man down the stairs. What she found surprised even her. There was the whole family, waiting.
Thanks for joining us, Red. It's always been a bit of a family tradition of ours that when we eat together. Don't see any reason to break it, and well, Darlene insisted.
At that moment, the terrible twins rushed up from behind their parents and threw themselves at Red, and the young woman found herself caught in a bear hug between the 2 kids.
You're the best, Red, and you have horns? That's so cool.
We drew some pictures too. See? It's you and all those monster thingies. Just look at all the blood.
Quinn thrust a few pieces of paper into Red's hand, and sure enough, there was Red, in all of her crayon-colored glory, big horns and claws, ripping the head off of one of those wendigos.
Oh, well, ain't that sweet, darling? I think.
Riley, Quinn, it's time for dinner. You can pester her all you want after, okay?
But, Ma...
Don't mock me. We're all famished, so let Red go and find your places.
The twins finally let Red go, but not before they gave her one last hug. Amos and Clayton were both smiling while Buck was carrying a large pot of stew.
Ma can cook just as good as she can shoot. Just warning you.
Well, darling, I guess we got time for some grub. Think we earned it.
Still can't believe I let you talk me into playing Rabbit Run with those ferals. Surprised it worked.
Not as surprised as me, darling. Y'all can run pretty damn fast.
Wait, you were surprised? I could have gotten killed.
I'm just kidding, darling. With me and old Percy, y'all were just fine as long as you ran fast enough.
Now this is a story I need to hear.
Only over a couple of bowls of stew. Everyone over to the table and find your seat.
Amos led the family into what had been a small scout cafeteria. There, in the middle of the room, was a big round table. Darlene had found enough plates and old silverware for everyone, and one by one, the family took their seats. When Red went to sit down, J.D. came up behind her and pulled out the chair.
Here you go, Red.
Oh, mighty kind of you, darling, and much appreciated.
The young man gave her a smile and then sat next to her. Buck brought the pot of stew around and served each person in turn before taking his own seat across the table. Before everyone started eating, Amos held up his hand.
I know that the last few weeks haven't been easy. Hasn't been easy for a good sight before that. But I'm still grateful that we're here as a family. Hey, I don't think we've ever had a meal with anyone as interesting as Red over there. But I think we do owe Red one big Bailey family apology too. Just because folks look different doesn't change what's inside of them. Horns, claws, and teeth don't change anything you've done for us. And we'll never forget it.
Red blushed at the kind words.
Thank you. Thank you kindly, darling.
All right, dig in, folks.
Red took the spoon and helped herself to her first bite of Darlene's stew, and it tasted as good as it smelled.
Oh, Darlene, this is something.
It's an old family recipe.
You make the best stew, Ma.
As the folks ate, Red sat back and enjoyed listening to the Baileys spin stories, with J.D. starting with his tale of being chased around the cabins by those ferals, then Clayton and Darlene talking about the old homestead in Indiana, and Amos telling the story of how he met and wooed his late wife, an epic adventure that started at a sock hop and ended with a proposal on a boat a stone's throw away from a place called Niagara Falls. Red could tell Amos had probably told that story 1,000 times before, but he spoke with such enthusiasm and love that she couldn't help but get lost in the tale. It reminded her of the days when her pa would sit her down on his knee and spin yarns about their kind, stories from the hills, before taking her to bed and tucking her in for the night. While it brought up sad memories of what she had lost, Red found herself laughing right along with the family, listening to J.D. pop up about his old exploits from home. And after a bit, Red began to get the idea that the young man was trying to impress her. When the twins finished their second helping of stew, they got up from the table and immediately ran to Red, and proceeded to ask a million questions all at once, poking at her horns and examining her fingers, even asking to see her teeth.
You think we should rescue the guest of honor?
Nah, I think Red there deserves the full treatment.
You are such a rascal, Amos.
Guilty as charged there, Darlene.
In the flickering candlelight, Red did her best to fend off the twins in the nicest possible way, even enlisting JD's help to keep the little ones at bay. It wasn't that Red minded the attention, well, maybe a little, but there was still the little problem of whatever was outside.
Okay, darlings. I done answered all your questions. And maybe you ain't so bad to have around, as long as you don't poke me so much.
You heard the nice lady. Why don't you go help Ma get dinner cleaned up?
Aw, do we have to?
Yeah, this is way cooler than dishes.
Right this second, or I'll set Grandpappy on you.
The twins turned to their grandfather, who turned his smile into a quick frown and stare, which was enough to get the two kids moving. Red gave Darlene a nod before turning to JD.
And thank you too, darling. This was really nice.
You're welcome, Red. And I'll try to keep those two at arm's length. At least the best I can. Back home, well, let's just say it was a bit of a losing battle.
Darling, I managed to get into a few spots of trouble myself when I was just a youngin'. It comes with the territory.
Red put her hand on JD's arm and smiled. JD and Red turned, and suddenly Amos and Clayton were looking everywhere else but directly at them. To Red, they looked exactly like two kids who got caught with their hands in the cookie jar.
Something the matter, darlings?
Nope, nothing at all.
Just a little bit of a cough.
While Red was merely puzzled, JD gave his pa and Grandpap quite the look before heading back to the kitchen. As the rest of the dishes were cleared and talk turned to more mundane matters, Red stood back and realized that this was perhaps the most normal she had felt in, well, almost as long as she could remember. She closed her eyes and pictured her ma and pa, Uncle Remus, and a host of cousins all crowded around their own table at home, trading stories of shine-making, days before the war, running from Johnny Law, and taking the annual trip up to the top of Old Smoky. Brushing a tear from her eye, Red took a deep breath, oddly scratched the side of her horns, then felt the hair stand up on the back of her neck.
Oh, no.
Something slammed into the front door. The impact was strong enough to rattle the whole lodge.
Quick! Darlene, get the kids upstairs! Buck, that means you too.
JD, cover that door!
Y'all make sure whatever that is don't get in here. I'm gonna go take a look.
Clayton, Amos, and JD aimed their rifles at the door as Darlene took one of the twins under each arm and ran upstairs, despite their insistent pleas to see what was going on. Buck hesitated for only a second before another impact rocked the lodge, sending him up the stairs after his mother. Red grabbed old Percy and followed the others to the second floor, but turned to the front of the lodge to open a window and look outside.
Well, I'll be dipped in shit. It's bears. A whole heaping helping of bears.
Not just bears, but giant, mutated bears. The radiation hadn't been kind to the local wildlife, and now more than a dozen of the creatures were circling the lodge, while the largest of them had decided the smells inside the large wooden building were just too much to pass up.
Gosh darn it!
The building was rocked yet again, and if Red didn't do something, the bear was going to break in.
Hope old Percy's up for this.
Red took aim as the creature backed up to charge yet again. She figured the head was probably her best chance to either kill or at least dissuade the bear from trying to make the Baileys its next meal. She squeezed the trigger, bracing against the recoil so she could put a clutch of bullets right between the beast's eyes. Whether the bear's skull was too thick or perhaps the beast was just too stubborn to care, old Percy didn't seem to make much of an impression.
Just made it angry. Damnation.
Red fired again, emptying the magazine and drawing blood, but didn't seem to have distracted the bear from its intent. If anything, the opposite. Looking up and roaring at Red, the bear prepared to charge again, more eager than ever to get to the soft, chewy humans inside the building. Red swore to herself and reloaded old Percy.
Maybe aim for the legs. At least it'll slow it down, if not stop it.
Getting desperate, Red raised her rifle, then heard footsteps running up from behind.
Red, duck!
Red glanced over her shoulder and saw J.D., and he was carrying a bottle in his hand with a flaming rag dangling from the top. Both Amos and Clayton were coming up the stairs as well, each of them with bottles of their own. Didn't take a stuffed shirt to figure out what the Baileys had planned. Red just didn't know if it would solve their problem or trade one for another. Where the Baileys managed to scrape up Molotov cocktails was a question Red intended to ask, but not right now. Instead, she watched as the men flung their bottles and they exploded in bright orange flames. The big bear was covered in burning liquid and it roared in agony, sending the rest of the pack into a frenzy as they began to stampede away from the flames. Red and the others watched out the windows as the creatures destroyed several cabins in their attempts to escape, while the flaming Alpha ran back into the woods until the flames themselves disappeared into the gloom of the night.
You know, I honestly wasn't sure that would work.
It was your plan, Amos. What do you mean you didn't know if it'd work?
I didn't hear you coming up with any better ideas, Clay.
All that matters is it did work, right?
For the time being, darlings.
What do you mean?
We scared them good, but that doesn't mean they won't come back. And where in the Sam Hill did you find Molotov cocktails?
Guess the scoutmaster had a little moonshine operation going on the side. There's barrels of grain alcohol in the back room, along with all kinds of bottles, hoses, and gauges.
That might have been good for me to have known about there, darling.
Honestly, didn't even occur to anyone to mention, but fair enough.
I'm gonna check the doors downstairs. That big one did a real number on our barricade.
Let me go with you, JD. I found some tools and maybe we can pry up some floorboards and, reinforce the doors with some of the planks. I don't know. It'll buy us a little time.
A bit of wood isn't gonna be much against any of those bears, is it?
No, it ain't, darling. Say, how much of that shine did you say you found?
Barrels of the stuff. Not sure, but it's a lot. Wait, you're not thinking what I think you're thinking, are you?
Depends on what you're thinking there, darling. Way I see it, we got two problems. First, those damn bears. And don't think for a second they won't be back. Second, we still need to get out of this damn forest.
Red looked around the room and saw a large map on the opposite wall. Walking up to it, Red traced her finger around until she recognized the label.
Camp Turtle. Damn, that means we're in the smack dab middle of this damn forest. But look at this here road. It goes right down past the lake and a ways up to this Blue Heron mining community. Sounds big and maybe safe?
That's a big maybe, Red.
Maybe is the best I got, darling. We can't stay here, and those dang bears will be breathing down our necks unless we give them some reason to be somewhere else.
So, what you're thinking is?
Let the young'uns sleep. Clayton and JD can keep watch, just in case. But you and me, Amos, we're gonna make us what crazy Uncle Remus used to call Tennessee firecrackers.
Saints preserve us. Guess we should get started and catch some shut-eye while we can.
Won't lie, darling. I'm plumb tuckered out. But being eaten by a bunch of radioactive bears ain't on my bucket list. Now, you check on your kin, and I'll grab those barrels.
Red and the Baileys worked with a purpose. Darlene finally got the twins to sleep, and when Clayton checked on them, the three of them were curled up together in one of the bunk rooms, while Buck had fallen asleep in a chair next to him. J.D. and his father only had the vaguest of notions of what Red had planned, only that they had to keep a careful watch out for the bears, or anything else that might be creeping or crawling in the night, while Amos and Red kept moving barrels out from the storeroom. It wasn't until Red dragged the last 3 barrels into the kitchen, along with several flares, that she finally got around to explaining what a Tennessee firecracker was, and her plan to get them all back on the road in one piece. Both J.D. and Clayton looked at Red, then looked at each other. At that moment, neither of them could decide if Red was kidding, crazy, or maybe a bit of both.
Don't give me those looks, darlings. I ain't any crazier than the rest of the world these days, and I definitely ain't kidding. What I am is plumb tired, and I'm gonna head upstairs and grab a few winks. The moment you hear or see anything, you rouse me and your kin and get ready to run like hell.
Red just turned and walked upstairs, leaving the Bailey men alone. Amos explained everything Red had told him and all they had done to get ready. It was still a long shot, but the Dead Boone Forest wasn't giving them a choice. As J.D. looked out the window, he thought he saw something glowing in the distance. It sent a chill up his spine. The next few hours would tell the tale, whether they'd live to see the sunrise, or if the damned forest would claim yet more victims.
Once upon a time, 27 years after the bombs fell, there were 2 people, a vault dweller and a California girl. They met and sparks flew. That's when things got interesting. Once Upon a Wasteland is their story. Follow Elizabeth Kirby and Odessa Valdez as they pursue their happily ever after in the post-apocalyptic Appalachian wasteland of Fallout 76. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other podcasting platforms. Once Upon a Wasteland, a Fallout 76 love story. Available now.
Thank you all for joining us for our latest episode of The Ballad of Trader Red. You can learn more about our story, both the original Modus Files tale of the fate of Appalachia and The Ballad of Trader Red, on our website, themodusfiles.com, or follow us on our various social media platforms, including Blue Sky and Instagram, @ModusFiles and @ModusFilesPodcast, or join our Discord. A link is included on our website. If you'd like to support us directly, you can also join our Patreon, where members receive special benefits like early access to episodes, special behind-the-scenes interactions with our cast, and read original drafts of our scripts. We'd also like to thank our cast: Chrissy Williams as Trader Red, Alicia Oliver as Darlene, Joel Butler as Amos, Jeremy Tucker as Clayton, Preston Harden as J.D., Henry McNamara as Buck, Griffin Williams as Quinn, Lydia Atherton as Riley, and Pandora Beatrix as our narrator. Lastly, thank you to all of our subscribers and supporters. It's a wild wasteland out there, and we're just getting started. Stay tuned for the next episode of The Ballad of Trader Red, where there's smoke.